executive committee to order. The committee would like to welcome the audience, and viewers may watch live or committee meetings online at TCAPS.net. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. Is there any public comment? No. Thinking about it? Procedural items, draft committee minutes from January 9th. Are there any changes to the draft minutes? Hearing no changes, they remain as posted. Moving on to the committee meeting schedule for 2025. So we do have the calendar. I haven't seen it at this point.
There's one change, and it's the board curriculum committee. Their time is changed to 8:15.
Oh.
And it may change one more time. That's so someone can make a meeting later on that day.
So always 8:15?
As of right now, 8:15.
Okay.
We're gonna evaluate it and it may have to change yet still. That's what we're going with for now.
And then as far as this committee is concerned, we're good to remain at 4.
You're all good with that?
Okay.
Whatever's good for you guys, I'm good.
What's the, I wonder on the Thursday, May 29th, if that one's, it's already at 9:15. But
That's because it's the retirees.
I know, but I wonder if it's gonna be hard. No, it'll be fine. I was thinking Memorial Weekend, that's the weekend. So this is
Yeah.
weekend. It's always hard going into Memorial.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the after, yeah.
Then I'm good. Hearing no changes to the executive committee, that will remain as posted. Obviously, the change to the curriculum committee that'll be made. Next, item board policy, deferring to Connie Taylor.
All right, here we go. So this is our third set for you. We will have one more at next month's board meetings. These are the revisions, as we indicated, that came in while we were in the transition process. So I'm just gonna go through them as I have. They're highlighted for you in terms of the changes. A lot of very simple changes this time around. The first one, we talked a little bit about this last time, but we pulled it to make some additional adjustments, 3211 post-issuance tax compliance. And this really has to do with the training that we provide to our debt compliance officer. It had previously read that annual training would be provided. In working with legal counsel, it's not a mandatory training. So what we did on the third page there for you is just make sure that it may be provided to our debt compliance officer. So pretty simple change there. 3402, the drills, plans, and reports. This year, new requirement that the district develop and provide annual review of a cardiac emergency response plan, as well as a drinking water management plan. And so we have made those adjustments. I can tell you that our business office operations department are working on having those in place and ready to roll out. That's all on that one. And you'll notice on the second page, just several places in here, you're gonna see where we had parent/guardian, just the reference to parent. So, and then there's a new statutory reference on there, setting forth those requirements for those plans. 3408, we had some cleanup to do on this policy under permitted uses, so we pulled it last time around. We still do have the clarification adding, in addition to those who can carry the peace officer, those individuals listed in MCL 28.425C5. As we talked about last time, those are if you have a security guard that the board has authorized would carry a weapon, or it could be tribal police or some additional things that don't fall under your traditional definition of police officer.
Is that supposed to be 28.425C?
I think you read it wrong.
No. Oh, sorry, I
It
read it
is.
wrong.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. I was
This
just
is what
like,
happens when you get 55-year-old eyes. Okay, balls, even with contacts. So we have made that minor adjustment there for you. Then under 4206, so I'll just preface this because it's gonna apply to a lot of them. This last year, there were revisions to the revised school code sections 1248 and 1249. Those are the two sections of the revised school code that govern evaluations, teacher renewal, all of those things. So they have made a number of changes in those sections, and these policies have all been revised to reflect those statutory changes. So under 4206 on the second page, page, you'll notice there's a 13 there that's highlighted. There is now an appeal process for teachers, administrators, and the superintendent on evaluation findings. So that's gonna be added in a couple of places as we go through these policies. Again, statutory, and we've added the statutory reference on the last page of that policy. This one too, 4207, another change that we saw was under the Michigan Public Employee Relations Act, PARA, has removed several things as being prohibited subjects of bargaining. Outsourcing or subcontracting used to be a prohibited subject, it no longer is. So you will see in this policy that we could move forward with third-party contract unless it's prohibited by the collective bargaining agreement. So basically that just says if we negotiate that in there, then it would be prohibited. 4213, under the anti-nepotism policy, again, we see the notation of parent on page 1, and then on page 2, the superintendent has had the ability to make exceptions to the nepotism policy all along, but right now what they've added is that if he were to do that, he would give prompt notice to the board of that exception. 4214, outside activities, again, the change on parent, and that is the only change to that policy.
And always capitalized.
Always capitalized. For whatever reason, I don't know, but that's what they do. Under 4215, the district technical and acceptable use policy, we have the parents reference there. And then also just a clarification for folks that if they get requests for district records, all requests for district records that are ascertained through our technology should be directed through our FOIA officer. That's standard protocol. This is just putting it in there to give people additional notification on what to do if somebody asks them for a bunch of school records. 4216, again, the change on parent. Only change to that policy. 4217, same thing, the parent as highlighted. 4221, employee speech, same thing, just the parent change for you all.
So because, I was trying to skip ahead, but because it's clearly capitalized, it means probably it's defined somewhere else. But was that already in that way? Because I didn't see a revision to the definition.
Well, right now, the legal definition of parent as referenced in statutes includes parents,
Okay.
guardians, foster care parents,
So we've
so
already approved that, and this is
we've
just
already
bringing it
approved
up
that.
to-
It's just updating it throughout your policy.
Okay.
4228, no changes to the policy. They did, however, just add a legal authority being the US Constitution. This is the prohibition against unnecessary or illegal searches and seizures. 4401, under professional staff definition, just a grammatical correction. There in B under teacher, they needed to add the word the. Easy ones for us, right? All right, the next couple, again, you're going to see under 4402, assignment and transfer, 4403, performance evaluation, and 4405, reduction in force. All of these are being eliminated because we're adding new policies to replace them when we get to the new policies. So rather than try to make those changes in here, they just did a strike through and drafted entirely new policies, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So we can kind of skip through several of them here. Again, those are all related to the changes in sections 1248 and 1249 of the school code. I'll get you to skip through several pages for you.
This one got blue too.
Yeah, those were the old ones where we had to make elections, but it's gone now too, so we don't have to make elections on that one. That gets us to 4408. Under professional staff, they're clarifying, as been part of the changes in 1248, 1249, have a new definition of teacher as it applies here. So teacher typically is teacher of record in a K-12 setting. However, they needed to clarify because there are other folks that we call teacher who would not qualify under 1249, and those are going to be people like our preschool teachers, GSRP. They are not required to serve the probationary period under the Teacher Tenure Act. So they just made that distinction in 4408. And again, you'll see it in several places, teachers not subject to the Teacher Tenure Act. And usually that would only apply to non-teaching professionals, but they realize they missed a piece and that there are teachers who are not covered by the Teacher Tenure Act. Then we get to 4409, same thing, 4409 non-renewal, and 4503, the previous policies are all strike-throughs because we're going to adopt new policies when we get to that section. So just strike-throughs there. Then we get to termination under administrators. And so basically this says that in order to terminate the language, it's no longer a prohibited subject of bargaining, therefore it can be in a collective bargaining agreement. Discipline is now a mandatory subject of bargaining. So discipline, including termination, may be covered by a collective bargaining agreement again, or an individual employee contract. It's just adding that provision. 4603, evaluation of the superintendent. Again, those statutes added a lot of additional information as it relates to a superintendent's evaluation. I know you are all aware because you went through that training on those changes, and this is just to reflect those. It changes the rating categories, which have been changed across all of the new employee evaluations from the 4 categories to the 3. It also makes reference to the mid-year progress goals using MDE approved tools or modified MDE approved tool. You're all aware of those changes, but they just outlined it in that policy for you. And again, also includes the language on the second page around about the appeal process, that being new as well. And that are all the revisions to existing policies. A lot of them pretty simple and straightforward. Then we get to the new policies. First one in front of you is policy 3201A, and that's financial management for federal awards. It was an optional policy. We had asked the business office to review and see if they thought it necessary to adopt, and because we do get federal awards, they thought it was appropriate to have some of those systems outlined in board policy. I'd like to tell you that I can understand everything that this says in here, but I'm going to leave that to our financial office. So if we have any questions, I'd be happy to forward them along to them. Pretty straightforward though. The next one, 4229, this is additional, almost I would say an addendum or an addition to our current acceptable use policy. Because AI is so new, there's no reference to artificial intelligence in our current acceptable use policy. So rather than revise that, they adopted an entirely new and optional, which the tech department has reviewed and is recommending for adoption. And essentially what this says is that the use of AI will be appropriate for our educational environment, and it will follow all applicable laws, including FERPA, the Children's Internet Protection Act, all of those sorts of pieces. And it also makes clear that while employees can and are encouraged in most cases to use AI, it can't replace your general instruction. And so it's a tool, but we can't just turn it over to a robot to teach our classes, basically. And then what the potential training and violations would be for violating this, similar to in our normal violations of our acceptable use policy. I know we're continuing to look at AI and developing additional policies around that, but this is really just strictly applicable to acceptable use. Any questions on that one, guys? Looking under 4402, so these next several ones are the replacement ones for the strikeouts that we had. As I mentioned, these are all consistent with the changes in section 1248 and 1249 of the revised school code, including the new definition of teacher as is included in section 1249, the K-12 certified teacher of record. So this would be applicable when we need to move teachers, when we're posting new positions, all of those pieces.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we ever move teachers in the middle of the year?
Not very often, but it can happen. And particularly, I would say in the area of special education, because those caseloads can change throughout the course of the year. We may have a need for additional teaching support, or a caseload might be down, so we can move shift that teacher to another building where the need may be higher. We really do try to avoid changing a teacher's placement mid-year. Generally, when that's required, what we will do is, and whenever possible, seek volunteers to do that movement. 4403, again, goes back to performance evaluations and the requirements to evaluate our both probationary and non-probationary teachers. And we've highlighted the change of the definition of teacher once again. Second page, this hasn't changed, but they are adding the word, if a teacher is rated ineffective or needing support. Ineffective was a previous rating category. We now have the 3, the lower is the needing support. If they receive that evaluation for 3 consecutive years, the district must move forward with termination of that in accordance to the tenure proceedings, but the district can't keep anyone with that that's had that rating for more than 3 consecutive years. Fortunately, we don't typically get there. The teachers that we've seen in these years when we've looked at renewal have been probationary teachers, and generally we can, we understand if someone's not making that sustained growth and improvement. So again, all looking to reflect the changes in the revised school code. Similarly, with reduction in force and recall, also known as layoffs, how we approach our layoffs, looking at teacher effectiveness, that's under the Teacher Tenure Act and the revised school code, that is the primary thing that we look at is overall effectiveness ratings. And then if those are equal, we're looking at things like additional contributions to the building and school, seniority, and so on and so forth.
So seniority comes second after that.
Yes, the primary under the revised school code and Teacher Tenure Act is you must look at the effectiveness rating as the primary driving factor. Also included a couple times in these policies is the parent reference. Any questions on that one? Non-renewal, similarly, talks about renewing of probationary and non-probationary teachers and how the non-renewal process looked like. And again, we've added section F there, so if someone is not governed by the Teacher Tenure Act, then they would be subject to any applicable collective bargaining agreement language. Again, no longer a prohibited subject of bargaining.
How do we evaluate all the online courses? We don't evaluate the teachers, correct?
We do,
We do?
we do. Same exact tool by law that we do
Okay.
our other teachers.
We're required to report for every teacher of record their effectiveness rating into a state system. So they all have to be evaluated pursuant to an approved tool, MDE tool or modified MDE tool, which we utilize, and then we report those ratings annually.
And then courses that we don't have any people enroll in them, but we have as optional, we don't evaluate those teachers, do we?
There are no teachers.
Because it's
Just
just,
the kids not enrolled in it, there are no teachers.
Okay, okay.
it's done by the teacher.
You're
of the
not,
course.
yeah,
yeah,
the course,
yeah.
correct.
And then the last one here for you is the administrator's performance evaluation. Again, there's a process outlined in statute for them, and then we've added under 7 the appeal language, which is new in the statute. And then if they're not covered by a collective bargaining agreement, that process could be outlined in their individual employee agreement. Any questions? Nothing real controversial or anything this time around, just more standard statutory changes.
Mhm.
And then, just to clarify, like, obviously, there's a lot of changes that just allows, because changes that are mandatory, but in general, it more allows the negotiation in collective bargaining. It doesn't make it so until it's done.
Negotiated, yes. It just says we negotiate now, it doesn't,
Yeah.
specify. In the absence of any negotiated language, though, it does, right now, we have a letter of agreement with our association that we do defer to board policy in the absence of a collective bargaining agreement. So these would govern those areas until we negotiated language to the contrary. All right.
And these are all brought to the full board, next board meeting to be, okay.
The changes will be on consent unless anyone pulls them off, and then the
Okay.
new policies will be up for discussion.
Okay. Any other questions on there? If not, we'll go to the February 10th and February 24th study session agendas.
Okay, so we have our call to order, our pledge of allegiance, review and approval of the agenda. For recognition, we have our Compass Award winners that we have for this quarter. Our first public comment, our legislative update and our district highlights, our board curriculum committee report out, finance, and exec. Board office hour report out. We have our consent agenda, which includes policy recommendations, the board policies we just reviewed. Our district course catalog that was reviewed by a curriculum committee. Bid services and purchases, we have our Blair Court and Blair Quartet lockers and our permanent walls for music are on consent along with meeting minutes. Under discussion, we have our school safety update. We will have our budget amendments as required. We will have the board policies new that we just reviewed as well. For bid services and purchases reviewed by the finance committee today includes school bus purchase, as well as the capital projects of the West Side Circulation and Long Lakes Elementary driveway expansion. We have West Senior High's restroom renovation, and we have Traverse Heights Elementary classroom and cafeteria addition. We have our second public comment, board president closing remarks, and adjournment. That's it for that.
There was, on that, we did have a request from two committee members that had a discussion item on establishment of, and again, this isn't necessarily for approval, but this is going on, we should add it as discussion, because it was requested by two members on item A, B, C, D. Oh, that's D, that's why, yeah,
Typo,
that's why I was
yeah.
like, mentally, I was like fighting myself, but yeah,
I was
it's
just gonna say
B,
that.
so it does say A, B, C, B, so A, B, C, we change the B to D.
Mhm.
And then E would be discussion on ad hoc committee for it's educational equity is the wording from the board members, but it's quite extensive in the write-up, so I just have that provided to the board in the packet. And I'm just putting it on as presented for discussion. So that's the only board member request that I have.
And I thought, my notes are in my car from finance this morning, but I thought that west bathrooms were put on consent. I thought we only pulled off 2 for discussion,
I think you might be right.
but I'm
We'll double check that.
hazy and I can't, and I don't know that it matters, I mean, you can keep it as is,
No, I think it was that $1 million, kind of like we had that discussion.
we definitely had the west circulation, that was.
And the Traverse Heights classroom, so.
And the Traverse Heights classrooms, but I think the bathroom was added because we've talked about it a bunch on different committees. For whatever that's worth, I think that was supposed to be added to consent.
So we can have that as consent.
Yep.
Yeah,
Let's move that to consent.
And if for some reason we're absolutely wrong, somebody pull it off and put it in discussion.
yeah,
Yep.
But I think that's correct.
okay,
So that's under capital projects, bullet number 2.
Yes. Okay, and then I don't have any other changes. So giving back for the February 24th.
Okay, so we have our call to order pledge, our review of the agenda, public comment, our consent agenda, which includes meeting minutes, study session on board governance. Dr. Tim Quinn is available. And Scott and I are meeting with him Monday to just discuss further his thoughts on what that looks like. And that will be, we do have it confirmed at Northwest Education Services in their large conference room. So that will be the bulk of our work, and then board president closing remarks and adjournment.
Perfect. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay, then we're on my sheet. Moving on to informational items, HR, deferring to Ponytail.
yeah,
Yeah, so pretty short staffing update for you. I was talking with my team before we came in. It's one of the shortest vacancy lists that we can recall in recent history, knock on wood, but that's not atypical for this time of year. We're pretty well staffed going into the school year with some exceptions. Going up today, we've added a plumbing position. We have our plumber who is retiring. As you all know, skilled trades are one of those areas we continue to look for folks, so that posting has gone up today. As of right now, we are currently still at 26 TCA or teacher retirements, 2 resignations and 1 request for an annual leave of absence. So we will continue to monitor our budget and our scheduling to determine which of those positions would need to be rehired and posted. We do know that we currently do have and will have a need for special education educators. So if anyone knows of anyone who is a special education who'd like to come work for TCAPS, we'd love to hear from you. Those postings are out there currently. Always looking for our drivers as well as our extended day. We have lots of postings around extended day. Love to offer some additional childcare opportunities for staff and community members, but we need folks to staff those. So many of those still listed on our website. And then I'll just notice that we're going into the spring coaching season, so looking still for some sports and other coaches for student activities. So we encourage folks to take a look at those as well.
Any questions? Moving on to communication update, going to Ginger Smith.
Thank you. So the first thing I wanted to touch on today is just an update on our student support network and let you know of a couple of events. One that has recently taken place, and that was the Hockey for Hunger that took place at Howard Arena on January 22nd. And upcoming on February 14, we do have Fight the Freeze, which is an annual basketball game where we have West Senior High against Central High School. That will take place at West Senior High, and that is through Blarney Broadcasting that helps us organize that event. So great partnership, and we hope to receive a lot of donations and donated items at that event. We did receive our updated numbers finally for all of the events and work that we did through the holiday season. And turns out we served 507 students for the holiday season through the Student Support Network office. Of that, we did receive 272 students who received assistance through some of our community partners like Haggerty, Rotary, Elks, along with some miscellaneous groups and individuals who asked to be paired up with a family. We had giving trees at many of our elementary buildings that assisted with 122 students. And then beyond that, we had 113 additional students that were supported solely through the Student Support Network. We also had many families that we were able to pair up with more than one organization, but we counted them as just one time. Looking ahead, we are beginning the planning process for the 3rd annual Sunshine Bus for our year-round services to continue. And we did have our planning meeting again with Father Fred. And we are all on board with continuing programming and looking at ways in which we can expand services again this summer. So we're happy to know that we will continue with that collaboration with Father Fred again for this summer. Next, I just want to touch again on enrollment. It's very near and dear to this time of year, and we have a lot of activities underway. We have Power School pre-registration is available now, and registration will actually open for families on February 4 with status notification beginning on March 14. Our kindergarten and junior kindergarten pre-registration again is open now with informations being held, meetings in all buildings between February 10 and February 12. Enrollment paperwork can begin being accepted online again on February 13. We also have information session and details going out for the middle school from 5th into 6th grade and for 8th grade into 9th grade. I know as a parent, I received my message from West Senior High today. A little bit of a tearjerker, but I'm okay. And those events are all scheduled to take place in February. So If anybody needs to know dates and times for any of the information on any of our junior kindergarten, preschool, 5th to 6th, or 8th to 9th, they are all available on our website, tcaps.net/enroll.
On the Fight the Freeze, what, you said you're collecting items?
Yeah, so they haven't announced yet what items they're collecting, but we recommended a few things to them and then they will decide. So to be determined,
Alright, no
but cash is always one of
Yeah.
those
You
items.
could say we'll always have a cash.
We will
Bucket.
always accept cash.
Alright. Okay, thank you. Any questions or if not, any other items? Alright, in that case, a nice quick meeting, but that is it, we can, so close.
Question. And that is, are you gonna get any committee reports aside of the kind of ad hoc on the general board meeting? So the sustainability, just,
We usually, is there one that's
They
missing?
haven't met, they don't meet
they
again
haven't
until,
met
no,
until
yep,
February,
yep.
so we're gonna have the board meeting before.
Yeah, we
Yep.
normally, yeah, cause we had
I was
the
just-
nutrition and wellness
Yeah.
was on our last agenda.
We have added them.
And there's another one, I just can't remember where they fall,
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
scattered.
yeah, right.
It's
all
after
over
we have
the
them, the next following board meeting. we can
Okay.
do it.
And so nobody's met in
Yep,
between.
that's correct.
And it
Okay,
is light
sounds
because we've got the weird not appointing anyone for a little bit in limbo, so that's why there's none on
Oh.
this one.
And also while we're just talking about, so the ad hoc committee that you're talking about adding as a discussion item?
Yes.
You're gonna put out some information as to what exactly?
Yeah, I did get an email and I'll see if there's any edits just to help out and then I'll put it to the board as is, so.
Okay.
There's no, I've only, to be honest, glanced at it, did come in timely, but I just wanted to add it and then we'll add it to the packet, so. Yep, okay, so with that, if there's no objection,
Okay, in one clarity, just something to think about on that. I will need clarification, like, is that a board committee?
That's what,
Is it a district committee? You know,
That's
from that
totally-
standpoint, cause like the sustainability is not really a board committee, nor is nutrition, you know, a board committee. It's a district
Right.
committee that has board members
Mhm.
that just, you know, are essentially ex officio members.
and that's kind of
So,
why I
yeah.
left it a little,
Yeah.
not because I disagree with parts or anything, it's like
Yeah.
some of it may be better as a study session, some of it I think is outside of the scope of the board maybe, some of it's definitely good, there'd be a lot of interest, so it's a work in progress.
Okay.
But rather than try and influence that as myself, I'll work with the individuals and then they can present it to the board and the board can do with it as they wish. So
Okay, yeah, the more information going into the meeting
Yeah.
would be preferable, just because I have no
It
idea
will
what
be in
is-
the packet
Okay.
and probably will highlight that to make sure that everyone's aware.
Okay.
We can just make sure that everyone's well read on that.
So when you said in the packet, so are you gonna get something then to, or
Yeah, I'm gonna take,
tomorrow and have in there?
yeah, is it, oh, yeah, it is tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, my goodness.
Yep, I will work on with any adjustments to what was sent in. So, yep.
Okay.
Okay, for a third time here, we are at the next board meeting, our next board executive committee meeting is Thursday, February 27th at 4 p.m. in this room. Without any other things, we can adjourn, thanks.